Oh, hello, everybody.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Holy shit, that smells like banana. I'm excited.
Did you get a Banana Foster beer or something?
Nope. So it's been a while since we've had one of these, but I was at the liquor store today and I saw the face of the big bad Baptist. So I got I got a chocolate banana, big bad Baptist, dude, and it smells good.
That big bad Baptist is angry, man. I'm drinking Woolly. Yeah, it's an IPA from New Zealand. It's pretty good.
From New Zealand?
Oh no! I apologize. It's from Red Rock Brewery, but it has New Zealand hops.
Oh,
kind of a weird thing to advertise.
I was hops. Like, how did you get a beer from New Zealand? Like, fill me into your secrets. We're in Utah. That shit doesn't happen here.
Yeah, I just flew a jet down there last week. Yeah. Saw the Gulf of America.
Oh, you fucking moron. Oh my God. So stupid. So I watched a movie this last week. It's called The Monkey. It was
it good?
So good. It's a Stephen King short story from his book The Skeleton Crew. And it was the same guy, Osgood Perkins, who did Longlegs, which I didn't care for. However, it was fucking awesome. Like, it's one of those dark comedies. Like, it was one of those ones that's like a horror film that has a lot of comedy. Like, they didn't take themselves seriously. Oh, it was so good.
Wait a minute. I actually watched Longlegs last week.
With Nicolas Cage?
Yeah.
Yeah. I told you to watch it.
You didn't like it? You didn't like it? I know you did, and that's why you did tell me to watch it, so I did actually check it out. What were your thoughts on it?
I want to watch it again because my problem was it was so overhyped for me. Like, I went into it because everyone was like, "This is the best film ever." It's so creepy, and it just didn't meet the expectations that I was expecting. But I didn't hate it. It wasn't my favorite. I do want to watch it again just because now that I know what it is, I'm not hyping it up. But what did you think about it? I'm curious.
I liked it. Oh. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't like amazing, but it was pretty good.
The film style was cool.
It was unique enough. I don't think it was like really that scary. It was more on the creepy end of things.
Yeah.
A little bit gory, but not too much. It's definitely something I didn't hate.
Yeah. Yeah, you should check out The Monkey. It was really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay, yeah, maybe we'll check it out.
I also watched a show called American Primeval on Netflix. You should check that one out too. It's a mini series. I think it's 6 episodes long. And we covered the actual incident that they talk about, the Mountain Meadows Massacre. Remember that one?
Yeah, Mountain Meadows Massacre.
Yeah, with the Mormons who dressed up as the natives and killed a bunch of people and then blamed the natives, and it was not good. Yeah.
The first false flags operations,
Yeah. The show was wild, dude. You should check it out. It makes you feel a certain way. I'll just say that.
I feel angry and bad things.
Yeah. It's not a happy show. It's not a happy show.
All right. So tonight we're going to be covering a forum from Reddit, which is called "What is the scariest true story you've heard or told?"
Oh.
So, looking at some of this, it seemed like I saw some good stories. I think we're going to have a very enjoyable night tonight. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in.
Yeah.
Britton, you want to do the honors, Mr. Boss?
I would love to, Mr. Boss. Yeah, but, strap in, get yourself a nice cold beverage. So we're going to kick this shit off with this one from Deleted. This happened to me. This is from the days when I used to live back home. I used to live in Karachi, Pakistan, but now I've moved to the United Kingdom. We used to live very close to a CID, a police investigation department, aka Pakistani FBI, building, which we were all unaware of and always thought it was just an ordinary government building, till on the 11th, November 2010. On that day, around evening time, coming home from work, I thought I better hit the gym, because they had a sauna, and after being tired from all day of working, that sounded like a good idea, which was hardly 0.3 miles away, so I decided to walk to the gym. I change quickly, and I start walking towards the gym. I was barely walking, 10 minutes, and I'm 0.1 mile away, roughly, when all of a sudden, for a nanosecond, I feel that the ground is shaking. The next thing I hear is the loudest bang that I've ever heard, followed by a pressure kick into my chest. Now, to let you guys know, both of my ears started bleeding because the bang was so loud, and for the reference, the kick in the chest was as bad as the Big Show. What the fuck? I don't understand, dude.
I don't know what he's trying to say.
This is so rough.
Maybe someone.
The kick in the chest was as bad as someone wearing military boots and kicking in the chest straight with full force. Next thing, I'm on the ground covering my ears because they're in agony, covered in dirt, trying to figure out what's going on. As I'm trying to figure out, I can see all the car's alarms have started going off. Anything made up of glass had been shattered in roughly 1 to 2 miles of an area. I'm still trying to figure out what happened, and I start smelling gunpowder as if someone is making a barbecue and is being burnt. I always remember that smell, which was something unsettling. The next thing, rock and dust particles start landing on me in the surrounding areas, which had about 1 or 1.5 inch long of... Holy shit. Which had 1 to 1.5 inches long... Okay, I'm going to a different one. I can't even fucking read it, dude. It's so bad. This comes from Alex RN. I was on a trip on my first commercial flight from Sacramento to San Diego to visit my girlfriend, and I didn't feel well. Once I got off the plane, I made it to the hotel and had bouts of nausea and diarrhea for a few days straight. Finally decided to go to the hospital. After waiting hours, I was led into a room. Sometime later, an Asian woman wearing a mask and gloves entered. "Please leave the room," she told my girlfriend. We'll call her Beatrice. No, she can stay. It's all right, I said. The doctor still hadn't looked at me, but looked back to Beatrice. "I think you should leave." Excuse me?
That's bad news, man.
I'd be like, no. I looked at Beatrice and I said, "Can you please wait outside?" Right as the door closed, the doctor said, "You have HIV."
Man, that's some really dark news to hear. My God, like...
I mean, you know it's going to be dark when they look at your girlfriend like, "Hey, you should leave."
You leave
Nothing,
the room now.
Nothing good comes after that at all. My mind instantly started racing, trying to problem solve. I can't have AIDS. I've been tested before I was tested before being with Beatrice and I was clean, I said. The doctor again, "You have HIV," while avoiding eye contact. I looked at my palms and for the first time in my life they were sweating. Like really sweating. I said again, "I can't. I've been tested." The doctor flipped a page and asked my name, which I responded, and finally doctor's eyes made contact with my own. "I am so sorry. I have the wrong chart." Oh my.
What is this? Dr. Hibbert
What
from
the
The Simpsons?
fuck
Did he
is
laugh?
this? My
You know
bad.
what? I got the wrong chart. You have...
Okay, well that's that's scary, but it's a good twist. "You have strep throat and laryngitis." I remember the world ending and then the feeling of the most relief I've ever experienced in my life. When I told Beatrice the whole story, she awkwardly laughed and said, "But you don't have AIDS, right?" To this day, when I tell people what happened, a good portion say, "But you don't have AIDS, right?" Whole lot of fucking nope.
That's funny. That would scare the crap.
I don't even know what
my
I would
God.
do. Like, you don't just come back from that. Like, oh, all right, we're good.
This one is from Bitter Critter Bug 92. This happened with my sister-in-law when she was about 11 or 12. Her and her family lived in a trailer park. Just down the street was her bus stop for school. Each morning, she would see a man in his trailer taking pictures of her and her friends. It creeped her out, so she went to tell her mom, my mother-in-law, of what this guy was doing and how he would just stand in front of his window staring at them and taking pictures. So her mom calls the police and reports him. The police don't do anything. This went on for about another 2 weeks with no action from the police, to where now my sister-in-law is terrified to stand and wait for the school bus, and her mom had to call the police again. This time, the police actually arrived at this pervert's house, and lo and behold, the police find a wall covered in pictures of my sister-in-law, some of the other neighbors, little girls, and some child pornography. Her and her other families watched from afar with this guy cuffed up and being escorted to the police cruiser. Oof. Well, see ya.
Yeah.
Sayonara.
He will never see the light of day again. This is from I Will Pick One Later. There have been several confirmed cases in a few different countries of people living in other people's houses unbeknownst to them. I believe one case went on for a couple of years. They call that frogging, if you didn't know. The intruder would wait until the homeowner would go to work and then sneak out and steal a small amount of food as to not be noticed. Well, eventually the homeowner did notice and couldn't figure out where his food was going. So he set up a hidden camera to record it.
Took 2 bites of this banana.
That's weird. I had a whole banana yesterday and now it's in half. He thought I wouldn't notice.
Half an apple. That doesn't match my teeth patterns.
What the hell is this? Half this frozen burrito is missing. I can only imagine how scary it would have been to come home from work one night and sit down to watch the video, skipping through hours of stillness to suddenly come across a person crawling out of your attic. And then the slow realization that that person is still in your house at that moment. And then the retroactive fear of thinking back to all the times you laid awake at night and heard a noise, which you just dismissed as coming from the pipes or the old wooden beams, but actually it was a fucking person just above you. Yeah, that's wild, man.
This one is from Void Scale. IRL account. I used to love swimming. I'd go snorkeling, scuba diving, even jumped off a few cliffs into the water. When I was about 18, I read the Necronomicon.
Necronomicon.
The Necronomicon. The collection of Lovecraft stories, not the real thing. Had a good scare, giggled at how silly I was to be unnerved, and went about my life. Next year, went to Crete on holiday. First day, I jumped right into the ocean with my dad and went out deep. Lo and behold, I feel something tickling my legs. Tickle, tickle, tickle.
Get out of the fucking water.
I dive under to see since it's too deep for seaweed to reach this high, and I wanted to see fish. Tentacles everywhere. I was so shocked I lost my air and panicked hard.
Nope.
I started breathing in the water as glowing eyes, sharp beaks, and suckered tentacles flashed around me. Thankfully, Dad got me to the shore and didn't understand what was going on. He'd seen nothing, but suddenly had a really grim look on his face. Went to the doctors. Turns out I'm a victim of a family curse. Schizoaffective disorder. My dad was horrified because since he hadn't got it, like his brother and mother, he thought I'd be safe. They caught it early, but this revelation then led to a lot of aspects of my life being thrown in the air. Entire people in my life became false. Ideas I'd had were delusional outbursts revealed to be due to mood swings. I'm doing much better now. I still don't go into the water, so Jesus, fake tentacles, man, that scared the crap out of me.
Yeah. No, I would never get in the water again. Like I've already told you, I have thalassophobia. Like I don't do well with like big expanses of water. Like a lake, that's fine, right? But no, I don't. No, there's no way. No way. All right, this comes from somewhat of a legend. One day as a kid, I was exploring the forest near our house with my cousin. The forest was on a hill, but there were several craters there because of bombs that were dropped during the World Wars, Germany. One day, we saw a backpack at the bottom of a crater. We tried to climb down, but it was kind of steep and slippery, so we didn't want to risk falling. We planned on returning later with a rope, and then we went home. The next day, a news story came about that there was a backpack found with the remains of a girl in that forest. A guy walking his dog had found it, after the dog wouldn't stop barking and going crazy at the edge of the crater while staring at the backpack. We stopped exploring the forest after. Damn. I can't imagine hiking or just doing something, fun, and you're like, oh, hey, cool, a backpack, let's check it out. And there's fucking chunks of a person in there, dude. Like that.
Yeah.
You don't go on living normal life after that. That's rough.
This one is from Snowy Thondi 8. The Lake Badam murders are very scary. Like, there are 4 teens who go on a camping trip in Finland. The next morning, 3 of the teens are found murdered, and one of them is almost dead and severely injured, but survived. No one knows who the murderer is today. 44 years later, the fourth teen, Niels, who survived, was accused of murdering them and gets sent to prison. But then he was released a year later because there was little DNA evidence to prove this, and no good evidence to prove that he murdered them all. However, there is circumstantial evidence such as he allegedly fought his one friend due to an argument and was drunk. Some say this could have ended in an accidental or an intentional murder. However, I personally highly doubt that Niels is guilty. I couldn't find much information on who Niels thought the murderer was, so my thoughts are: 1, it's too traumatic for him to remember, or 2, he didn't recognize the person. Some other key suspects include the manager of the camp, who is known for being quite hostile, an ice cream vendor who admitted to the crime on his deathbed, and a man who lived only a short distance from the camp who claimed to be in Germany during that time. However, there is much doubt for his claim. There was a sketch released of the alleged murderer, who seems to be an unsettling picture of an older man. And you can find a photo of the man who looks like this guy in the sketch attending the police speech. Edit: I added some information that I missed from the case based on the replies to this. So, damn, man. Yeah, can you imagine getting murdered while you're camping with friends?
No.
You're the one survivor and they think it's you.
Yeah. How do you convince people that it wasn't you? That's got to be the most.
It wasn't me. It was the ice cream man.
That's got to be the most defeating feeling. It's like, I know it looks like it was me, but it wasn't fucking me. All right.
It's like Bill and Ted versus Evil.
Oh my
God. What it looks like. But it was not us. They're like some type of suicide cult.
It's Tucker and Dale, not Bill and Ted.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Shut the fuck up.
You know, it's
been a while,
it's funny,
okay?
though, because
Piece of shit.
It's funny because I have to, when I was editing the one episode, we were talking about Evil Dead, and you actually said, man, Bruce Banner really fucked up. And I realized that Bruce Banner is the Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
I was laughing so hard. I'm like, oh, he fucked up, and I didn't even catch it. No, it's Bruce Campbell. Yeah, Bruce Banner.
I know.
The Hulk, so
I know.
Anyway, I just thought that was funny.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm just keeping you honest. All right, this comes from
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner really fucked up. What did the Hulk have to do with the Evil Dead? I missed that part. All right, this comes from E-Train 828. I lived with 3 other girls, sophomore year of college. All 3 had taken off early for spring break, leaving me alone in the house. My first night alone, I heard someone bang on my front door at around 2 a.m. Then I heard more knocks at the back door. A man yells, "Boulder Police, open the door!" When I didn't, I heard body slams against both doors. Soon I hear, "Little girl, open the door. We know you're alone." At this point, I'm so terrified I keep accidentally dialing 611 instead of 911. When I eventually do get the police, cars roll up, thankfully, just minutes later. Officers have 4 boys from our school hockey team face down on the grass. I had to file restraining orders against them, and the kicker, one of them lived across the street from me, and we'd never spoken a single word before then.
This one is from James Renner. I'm a crime writer and once interviewed a woman who told me an unrelated horror story about something that happened to her as a girl. When she was like 10, she had trouble sleeping and imagined the boogeyman was living in her closet, staring at her during the night. Every night she would come down and tell her parents, and every night her father would tell her the boogeyman didn't exist and she should go back to bed. Well, this happened for several nights and the father got tired of it. So that night he walked her back to her bedroom, turned on the light, and said, "I'll show you there's no boogeyman," and went to open the closet door. But something on the other side held it shut.
Whoa.
That's scary, dude.
Not a fan.
That's scary. He sent his daughter out of the room and forced the door open to find that a man was inside. He'd been sneaking into their house every night to stand in the girl's closet and watch her, and maybe more.
That's so fucked
He
up.
beat the... Oh, yeah, because, I mean, he could, murder the whole family. He beat the ever-loving shit out of this man, and the man went to prison. When I interviewed this woman, I looked him up online. He'd recently gotten out on parole and had skipped out on his weekly checks. There was a warrant out for his arrest, and nobody knew where he was anymore. That's messed up, man.
Just like that story we covered, that guy who wanted to date the one girl and then she broke it off with him and he kept breaking into their house and writing shit on the walls. And
Oh, yeah. That was dark.
yeah, that's crazy. Just always check your house, people. You might not always be alone. All right, this comes from Scraws91. When I was a kid, maybe 2 or 3, my mom and I lived in a cheap single-wide trailer in a really shitty trailer park. Single mom working 2 jobs and was going to cosmetology school after my dad left. I stayed with my aunts overnight a lot because my mom would work graveyard shifts. Anyway, she picked me up from my aunt's house around 7 a.m. one day, and we went back to our trailer. I remember immediately not wanting to go inside, begging to ride my bike, but exhausted. Mother just wanted to go to sleep, so we went inside and she laid in bed. I sat up watching Barney for a while, and being the dickhead toddler that I was, I kept waking my mom up asking to go outside and to ride my bike, which we usually kept in my room because if we left it outside, it would get stolen. I told my mom that I didn't want to go play in my room, so I asked to lay with her. While we were laying there, for some reason I told my mom that there was somebody in my closet and that he wanted to hurt me. No idea how I knew that. I don't think I even went into my room that day. But she got up to show me that no one was there. And when she walked into my room, the folding closet door started to open and got stuck on something. Turns out, a previously convicted child molester had skipped bail on a new trial, watched my mom's comings and goings for a few days, and broke into our house while she was at work. He took my bike in the closet with him, hoping I would come looking for it when we got home, and the only thing that kept him from jumping out of the closet to attack my mom when she walked in there was the spokes of my bike getting stuck on the little metal tabs at the bottom. Needless to say, we ran like hell out of the house and got in the car and drove away. Unfortunately, the guy got out of the house before the cops showed up. Closets still fuck me up to this day sometimes, 26 years later. Dude, that's crazy.
This person's name is I'm Vegan, by the way. When I was a little girl, 9 years old, or thereabouts, I was playing at the school down the street from my house. It was the middle of the summer, and myself and a girlfriend were hanging around watching the boys play street hockey. One of the boys called my name and said "man" in the parking lot and was looking at me. The parking lot was mostly obscured by the building, but I could see an old 70s style van that hadn't been there earlier. I was walking over to the van when the mother of one of the other kids showed up looking for her son and asked me what I was doing. When I told her someone in the van was looking for me, she took my hand and started to walk with me, and the van pulled out and sped away. Friend's mom walked me home, and I wasn't allowed out of my yard without my parents for the rest of the summer. I was so upset and didn't understand why I was being punished. It was only years later that I understood that I was likely being targeted by some opportunistic... God damn it, man, I'm having a stroke. I know. By some opportunistic... Oh, Jesus. Opportunistic.
Let's walk out balcony all over again.
By some opportunistic scumbag for who knows what. Thanks, Mrs. Gibson, wherever you are.
Mrs. Gibson for the win. All right, this comes from Harper Pitt 011. My mom was stalked by a guy in her chemistry class. This was back in the late 70s during her first semester at college. They were lab partners, and Mom thought he seemed cute and nice and was too shy at the time to ask him out, but she said if he'd asked her out, she would have gone along with it. They were friendly with each other in class, but their paths didn't cross outside of that since they were in different majors. As the semester wore on, however, she noticed he was often waiting for her outside of her other classes, the library, the student union, out in front of where her dad picked her up and dropped her off. This continued into the spring semester. Puzzled but not yet alarmed, she asked him how he always seemed to know where she was. He proudly said, "Oh, I asked the registrar's office for a copy of your schedule." He's all like, "Oh, that's easy, I just asked him."
I put a chip in your skull and tracks you.
My mom went to complain to the secretary who gave out her schedule. And the secretary blew it off because you guys are dating. Luckily, Mom had already arranged to transfer to a different school for sophomore year and spent the remaining time left avoiding him. She never saw him after that. But it wasn't over. Flash forward to grad school, Mom was at work, and Grandma gets a knock on the door. Since the man at the door was in a naval uniform and my grandmother was a Navy nurse, she let the man in, because he looked rather sad. He starts off by saying how sorry he is for my mother's loss, which completely mystified Grandma. Well, ma'am, I just got back from overseas and I found out my friend recently killed himself. He spoke so highly of his fiancée, your daughter, and I wanted to meet her. My grandmother told him her daughter didn't even have a boyfriend at the moment, let alone a fiancé. Doesn't take too long to establish the man's deceased friend in question was in fact Mom's stalker. The naval lieutenant was pretty upset, and my grandmother even more so. She made him leave before Mom got home. The weird thing about the stalker's death is that it was ruled a suicide, but he hanged himself from a very high-up tree branch that you'd need a ladder to get to, and his hands were tied behind his back. From what my mother later learned, he had a tendency to snoop and generally stick his nose in places that they didn't belong, besides the obvious stalking thing, and this didn't win him too many friends, so it's anybody's guess who he might have pissed off. My mom always concludes the story with kind of nonchalantly like, yeah, back in those days, they didn't really know much about stalking. They've got a little better in terms of awareness now. Jesus Christ.
It was still something not within the lexicon of
the normal
society.
It was kind of a new thing. It gives me the creeps to think what could have happened if he escalated his attempts to follow her after she left that school.
This one is from Kabarian. It happened about 12 years ago. I'm a 39-year-old anesthetist from Egypt. I tried, man.
Anesthetist.
Go fuck yourself. Anesthetist.
Anesthetist.
12 years ago, I was working in a small hospital in the rural city of Rosetta. If you know Rosetta Stone, this is the city where they found it. The hospital is formed of 5 floors. The dormitories are on the 5th floor. The ground floor had the emergency and the causality department. Other floors have the wards, the labs, and the operative theater. At that time, the hospital was under some maintenance. In that particular day, I was on duty. There was nothing in the operative theater that afternoon, so I was in my room on the 5th floor surfing the web on my netbook. I heard some knocks on the door. It was the janitor. He told me that some new beds and wardrobes would be delivered now. He asked me to stay out of my room till they finished the replacement. I stayed in the TV room for a while when suddenly the PA system announced my name to head immediately to the ER. Before I moved, one security man came running and he told me that there was a big road traffic accident that involved a school bus and that everyone available is needed down. I rushed to my room, found the new furniture in place, so I closed it and ran down to the ER. When I entered the ER department, I noticed the new color of the walls. Before, it was green, now it's blue, with silver decorations everywhere. While I was helping the children, I asked one nurse when they changed the colors of the ER. Would all the hospitals have the same pattern? She looked at me confused and asked what new color. It was always like that. I got confused myself, but I didn't pay attention to that. There were many injured children. There were many doctors, pediatricians, surgeons, etc. A lot of them were new faces to me. I was working in this place for several years, so I almost knew everyone. I was asking myself when all those new people came. I should be more social or so, but I didn't expect anything bad. I was asking the people I know about the new doctors, and always I was getting the same answer. You don't know him? How? He's been here for several years. We meet over lunch or dinner, etc. Again, I was confused, but I didn't pay much attention. Thank God nothing was serious. No one was admitted to the ICU or went through an emergency surgery. A couple of hours later, everything is fine and things began to settle down, so I went outside the ER to have some fresh air. I won't forget what I saw. The hospital place is near the Nile, the Western branch, the Rosetta branch, so that's what I usually see when I leave the hospital. But what I saw was simply the Mediterranean. Mediterranean. Rosetta City is near the Mediterranean, but not that close. I couldn't believe my eyes. I began to look to the surrounding buildings. Some I knew, some I didn't. Now I freaked out. I remembered that I didn't recognize the ER or the new doctors. I ran inside to my colleagues and asked them about what is outside. They told me it's the Mediterranean. I shouted, I know it is, but how did it come here? Everyone was confused. I kept asking, where am I? And my colleagues started to calm me down and try to understand why the panic. I tried to call my parents. I was single at the time, using my cell phone, but they didn't answer. I wanted to call another older anesthetist. I considered him a father and my best friend. I couldn't find his name on my phone. I really freaked out. I asked my colleagues for his phone number. Everyone told me that they did not recognize the name. I was sure that I wasn't dreaming. I was treating children, calculating drug doses. My mind was clear enough to know that I wasn't dreaming. I got a mental block. I didn't know what to do. Then I decided that I will leave the hospital at once. I needed to see my family. I ran to the 5th floor to my room to change my clothes. I get my things before I leave the place. Once I opened the room, I noticed the usual furniture. No new furniture, no new beds or wardrobe. I stood there for a moment totally lost. Then I heard someone calling me. It was a security guard. He told me that there is a big accident down that involved a lot of children and they needed everyone down there. I kept staring at him without any response. He kept talking that PA is down because of a faulty maintenance, and that's why they are calling the doctors individually. I told him that I would go down. He asked me if any other doctors are in the dormitory. I told him that I do not know, so he went to check. I had looked outside the window, and here it was, the Nile, and the usual scene. But I was already lost. I went down to help. The same children, same injuries, but I was completely lost, confused, and hands shaking. My legs barely carried me. It was easy to manage the children since I knew them already. I knew what kind of injuries we will find. My colleagues, usually daily group, no more new doctors, asked if I was okay and that I was pale. The next few days was like hell to me. I had nightmares. I wasn't able to think clearly during the day. Then I took 1 week off to calm down. I have never experienced anything similar. I wasn't on any medications at that time or under any kind of stress. Everything was clear. It wasn't a dream at all. As I said, my mind was clear to pay attention to the details of the drug dosages, scoring of injuries, I'm sure. Till today, I still remember the children and what I did to them. I only told the story to this older anesthetist and later to my wife because whenever I remember it, I remember that horrible feeling I had. Okay, all right, so maybe he slipped in an alternate reality where he was a doctor in a different location that had the same accident? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's kind of weird. This comes from Aardvark Cactus. Not the scariest one I've heard, but definitely the scariest thing that happened to me. A few years ago, I was living in a big city. Didn't know anybody. A guy I was seeing came from abroad to visit me. At the end of his trip, I accompanied him to his train home. After that, I went back into the metro to go to my own home. It was roughly 2 p.m., very bright and sunny outside. I sat down on a bench near a man. We made eye contact, and I said hello. He said hello back. I felt like something was off, but I tried to ignore it. The metro car came and we both got inside. It was crowded, so I took a seat, and he took one of the only available ones, which was right across from me. I started thinking that I was overreacting since he started talking to a man near me. Seemed like they might have known each other. His friend got off after a few stops, but he stayed. Once I saw my own stop approaching to change lines, I got up. He got up too, and was right behind me. I could see his reflection in the metro car window, and he was very slowly looking my legs up and down. I started to feel very uneasy. The doors open, and we get off. I start walking quickly to the end of the platform, then realize he might be following me. There were several entrances and exits around, so I suddenly changed direction to go to the other exit. He changed course as well. Then I turned around again, and he followed. I did this a few times, and he changed his path to match mine every time. Fuck. Eventually, I knew I had to leave somehow so he wouldn't catch up. So I went to the exit I needed to take to change lines and go home. Unfortunately, the passageway to the next line was flooded with people, so I slowed down. He caught up with me and started crowding me in, getting closer and closer to me. I was backed up against a wall at this point, him just smiling brightly at me. What a fucking creep.
You like my smile?
I like your legs.
Your long legs.
Hello, how are you? He asked me, still inching towards me. I was terrified at this point. No one stopped to even glance at us, so I knew unless I did something myself, I wouldn't get away from him. I glanced to the right and saw a staircase downwards. Without warning, I sprinted away to the stairs. He was very caught off guard, and it took him 2 or 3 seconds to start following me. I flew down the stairs and straight into a metro car. I turned around to see if he was close behind. He was sprinting down the stairs as well. Thankfully, the doors closed before he could get to the bottom, and we pulled away. Surprisingly, I had gotten onto the right metro line in direction to go home. Not that it mattered much to me at the time. That incident and several others of men following me home or in the street make me paranoid when I walk outside alone. God
Yeah, that's
damn.
creepy. Or this one is from Scariest, 1990. I'm not really great at writing sentences or paragraphs.
Is that really what he said?
Yeah.
Oh,
But I hope
no.
everyone can read this just fine. I was walking out of a Walmart one night, and this guy caught my attention and asked me if I can give him a ride. Oh, man. I don't know this person, and I don't give random strangers rides. He told me he was a truck driver, and he wanted to go back to the gas station across the highway.
Highway.
God damn it. He told me he was a truck driver, and he wanted to go back to the gas station across the highway, literally just within walking distance, so he can get into his big rig. I made up some BS excuse, so I wouldn't give him a ride. I suggested to him that there's an Uber he can contact for help. He starts yelling at me, saying that it's just a ride, and that he needs help. At this point, I just say, I gotta go, and I quickly turned around and headed to my car. I heard him say, okay. I got into my car and sped off. Initially, I felt extremely bad for not giving him a ride, but the way he yelled at me made it seem justified that I said no. I don't give stranger rides unless it's family or friends. Cut to almost a year later, I'm at a restaurant eating lunch. I decided to open up my Facebook on my phone. What I saw next just spooked me down to my core. The article showed a picture of the same guy who asked me for a ride that night. In the mugshot, it turns out he was a running fugitive, wanted on several murder charges across the state I lived in. One of the scariest things he did to trick people was that he would ask for a ride, and then when him and his victim were out of sight of everyone, he would then kill them by shooting them, and he strips them of their money and their clothing. He then would take the vehicle and travel to the next area to find his next victim. I legit almost choked on my drink when I saw that. Jesus!
Yeah,
That would be a hell of a way to get to the end screen, man.
Oh, yeah. Not very good.
Game
over. I like how he's like, I don't give strangers rides unless they're my family or friends.
Wait, but then they would be strangers.
Then they're not strangers. That's just not how that works. All right, this comes from Psychic Rocky. When I was about 5, I woke up to my house surrounded by loud voices and bright white lights. A group of robbers had broken into our house after some kind of heist and were using us as hostages with rifles. The police had our house surrounded. My parents, grandparents, and I didn't really speak English back then, so my 12-year-old sister had to translate the demands to the police and instructions to us. My grandmother told me to go back to sleep, which I somehow easily did. After falling asleep and waking up the next day, everything was fine. The only thing everyone kept talking about were where the robbers were standing. They decided not to have too many entrances from the house, so they barricaded themselves in our kitchen. Apparently, the entire kitchen floor was covered in guns. I kept asking what happened, but my family was firmly in the mindset of don't tell the kids anything ever. Since little kid me was kind of dumb and nothing really happened to me directly, I forgot about the situation for years. I asked again, but they still don't want to talk about it. It's kind of scary to think about that. Had they wanted to, I could have died in my sleep that night.
All right, this one is expires 2020. Throwaway account. I used to be in the police, and this story is burned into my head probably for the rest of my life. Got called out to a caravan park. Lady could be heard screaming in one of the caravans the whole day, but we only got the call at that night. I turned up to the address with my partner, and a huge friendly man comes to the door. He was towering over me and completely blocked the entrance to the caravan, so I couldn't see past him. I said to him there had been complaints of a woman screaming from this address, and he told me that his missus and him had been arguing about something getting stolen from outside their caravan, which was her fault. Bullshit story. He was the friendliest man and so nice to deal with. Unfortunately, I wasn't going to leave without checking on the female, as we have to make sure all parties are safe before leaving. He was hesitant at first, but then moves out of the doorway, and I see her sitting on the bed, covered head to toe in clothing and huge sunglasses, which was odd because it was nighttime. Possibility of drugs, but I doubted it. I asked if she was okay, and she nodded her head. She wouldn't remove her glasses for me, and I wasn't allowed to make her. So I gave them a warning about the arguing and told them to keep it down. I was still unhappy with the situation, as I didn't have enough evidence to make an arrest, so I decided to go next door and ask if they had seen anything. The neighbors told me the woman is covered in bruises, and I needed to get her to safety. They agreed to be a witness and make statements, so I was happy with the evidence for the arrest. I go back to the caravan and arrest the man and put him in the back of my car. I then go over to the woman, who immediately collapses when standing up. We help her back onto the bed, and she starts removing the clothes and glasses. She is covered in bruises. Her face is swollen with black eyes. She has fresh blowtorch burns on her leg and stomach, huge holes all over her body from a screwdriver that were infected. I've never seen anything like it. That woman was tied up in the stupid little fucking caravan for weeks, being tortured for every minute she was awake. The thing that got me, though, was how nice this monster of a human was. You just don't know anything about anyone until it's too late. We put this fucker away for life without bail. We got her help, a new place to live, and a recovery house for domestic violence victims, and she's doing well. The saddest part of the whole story, the female is still in love with him and asks if she will ever see him again. Brainwashed. Jesus.
Damn.
Jesus.
To a screwdriver? That's rough.
I might have to get the blowtorch. I'm a nice guy, but...
All right, folks, that is going to wrap us up for this evening. Thank you for joining us for some more scary stories. And a huge shout out to our paid supporters of the show, Soylent Cleat, Cleat Feet, Curtis and Lara, Mothman, Lara, Conklin family, and Lou. Your paid support of the show is tremendously helpful. And if you yourself would like to support the show, there's a link below with several tiers to choose from, and a one-time link for a donation to the beer fund of our show.
If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, as it really helps us get us out there. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.